I'm Lynn Packer with episode 28 about the 2.5-year-old criminal investigation into Operation Underground Railroad, OUR for short. This report is a tale of two Hollywood-style movies, one titled Sound of Freedom, slated for release in theaters later this year. The other has the working title Project Icon. It was completed in 2021, but then killed before any theatrical release. The two projects share some curious connections. Each film cost millions of dollars to produce. The catchphrase promoting Project Icon said that a street kid is forever changed after he endures the trial, persecution, and death of Jesus of Nazareth. It was shot in 2020. The location, the island of Malta in the Mediterranean. It puts a Mormon spin on Jesus, but it was killed before release. The Sound of Freedom is the story of Tim Ballard, who quits his job in order to devote his life to rescuing children from global sex traffickers. It was shot in 2018. The location, Colombia and the United States. It portrays Ballard as a Rambo Jesus. It has a new 2023 target release date. Both movies are shrouded in secrecy. Project Icon was produced by the LDS Church or a shell company it set up. It's been secret from beginning to end. No involved party will comment. A fake company named Project Icon LLC may have produced the film. Sound of Freedom was produced by a now-defunct Florida company. In the beginning, it was highly publicized, but now it's mostly secretive. Comments are evasive or none at all. The production company, Santa Fe Films, was dissolved in 2017. What about the actual name of the Mormon Jesus movie? Its director, Roland Joffe, may have inadvertently leaked the actual title to a European movie industry news outlet. The news report said, moreover, Good Shepherd, directed by the famed filmmaker Roland Joffe, also made its way to the island, referring to Malta, shooting across a variety of locations. The film is an alternative retelling of the death of Jesus. Mormon church leaders often use the expression Good Shepherd, including Apostle Russell Ballard, who headed the Project Icon for the church. For example, he said, "Trust the Lord. He is the Good Shepherd. He knows his sheep, and his sheep know his voice." But I will continue referring to the Mormon movie as Project Icon. The film was supposed to be just one part of a major rebranding plan to combat the relentless and baseless evangelical attacks on Mormonism, like this one. Mormons are not Christians because the Mormon Jesus is not the Christian Christ. The strategy was to downplay the term Mormon while playing up the church's connection to Jesus by releasing a major motion picture or series about Jesus. The other movie that I'll discuss in detail in this report, Sound of Freedom, was created to draw attention to what OUR says is a worldwide child sex trafficking epidemic, and to turn Operation Underground Railroad CEO Tim Ballard into a superhero. After multiple failed attempts to get the film into theaters, it now seems to be on track for worldwide release later this year. The motion picture news outlet Variety broke the story at the end of March that Angel Studios acquired the rights to Jim Caviezel drama Sound of Freedom. That report followed a tease from Tim Ballard's Facebook page that he and the movie's producer and co-star Eduardo Verastegui had been spending a lot of time at Angel Studios in Provo, Utah. Both motion pictures shared two prominent men who provided moral and financial support. Mexican billionaire oligarch Patrick Slim, who is believed to have invested in the ventures, and LDS apostle Russell Ballard, who did the same. Patrick Slim is a very wealthy Mexican whose family, among other holdings, owns department stores and the country's biggest telecommunications company. He's a philanthropist, especially supporting Catholic anti-abortion and anti-gay marriage causes, seen here with Miami's Archbishop and Sound of Freedom producer Eduardo Verástegui. Slim is identified with the Catholic and Mormon-backed World Congress of Families, the Citizen Go organization, and his own Mission for the Love of God Worldwide, a private pro-Jesus and Mary advocacy group that sponsors events such as the Catholic Consecration of Miami. It was their joint fight against abortion and gay rights that helped take the Catholic Church and Mormon Church from adversaries to allies. The alliance seems to have undone some fundamental Mormon doctrine. Church founder Joseph Smith claims God and Jesus appeared to him in 1820, and that Jesus told him all religions were wrong. Jesus purportedly said, "Their creeds are an abomination in my sight. The professors thereof are all corrupt." The LDS stance for decades was Mormonism alone of all religious organizations of the world is the true Church of Christ. Mormonism cannot affiliate with other sects and parties on common ground. Also, for decades, many, if not most Mormons, believed that, specifically, the Catholic Church was the church of the devil. The Book of Mormon describes a great and abominable church, a church of the devil. A book written by Apostle Bruce R. McConkie, now deceased, said the Catholic Church is the one denounced in Scripture. But that would change dramatically. In 1988, an official church statement said, "No single known historical church, denomination, or set of believers meets all the requirements for the great and abominable church." Unlike Mormonism's extremely strained relationship with evangelicals, its relationship with the Catholic Church turned into a mutual admiration society. The highest profile cooperation was in support of California's Prop 8, which banned same-sex marriage. It was later overturned as unconstitutional. Both churches blame the devil. The current Mormon Church president in 2014 said, "Satan is attacking the family in all directions. God's standard for marriage, the union of one man and one woman, has been part of his plan for his children from the foundation of the world. The Catholic Diocese of Salt Lake understands this, as does the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, sometimes inadvertently called the Mormon Church. This is the reason they are standing strong in defense of their religious beliefs concerning marriage." Same thing with Catholics. The final battle between our Lord and the reign of Satan will be over marriage and the family. Freemasonic and Marxist hopes have been realized beyond all expectation with contraception, abortion, pornography, homosexual marriage, transgenderism being blissfully embraced by the generality of the population. The family is destroyed, and Satan's victory seems complete. This photo was taken in a hallway at the church office building when Patrick Slim secretly met with the Quorum of 12 Apostles and First Presidency. It was with regard to strengthening families, which in Mormon and Catholic speak means anti-gay marriage and anti-abortion. The leaked photograph shows that Eduardo Verástegui, Tim Ballard, and Sean Reyes were with him. The meeting was reportedly set up by Russell Ballard. At that time, Verástegui was doing pre-production work for The Sound of Freedom, but according to one source, another movie came up during the meeting with LDS leaders, the idea of coming together on a motion picture about Jesus. A month later, Russell Nelson, then president of the Quorum of 12 Apostles, met with Slim and Catholic leaders in Mexico, a meeting that was publicized by the Mormon Church. At the meeting, Nelson presented the Mexican cardinal a replica of the Christus statue, an image that would later become part of Mormonism's new, rebranded official emblem. At or near the same time, an Operation Underground Railroad contingency also met with Patrick Slim at his office in Mexico. The trip included at least one flight on Slim's private jet. One participant in the meeting said they discussed Slim's possible financial support for a Mormon Jesus movie, that Slim might be willing to pay for half, and that he commented it might depict both Mormon and Catholic views of Jesus. In the next two sections of this report, I'll take closer looks at both movies, beginning with Project Icon. A proposed Hollywood-style Jesus movie was part of Russell Nelson's plan after he became LDS Church president in January 2018 to rebrand Mormonism. In October 2018, he announced a revelation about the correct name of the church. Nelson strongly denounced the monikers Mormon and LDS. He said, "It is not rebranding," even though it was. He noted it was the Savior himself who said, "For thus shall my church be called in the last days, even the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." Here's one of several YouTube versions of the talk that included segments from a Jesus movie the church had produced several years earlier.
The Lord impressed upon my mind the importance of the name He decreed for His church, even the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Thus, the name of the church is not negotiable, and if we allowed nicknames to be used, He is offended. To remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan. When we discard the Savior's name, we are subtly disregarding all that Jesus Christ did for us, even His atonement. My dear brothers and sisters, I promise that if we will do our best to restore the correct name of the Lord's church, He whose church this is will pour down His power and blessings upon the heads of the Latter-day Saints, the likes of which we have never seen.
The video clips you just saw in that version of Nelson's talk were from the LDS Church's online series and eventual YouTube movie titled The Life of Jesus Christ. It was filmed at the church's multi-million-dollar Jerusalem set in Goshen, Utah. Here's a segment from that movie.
I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness. Though I bear record of myself, yet my record is true. For I know whence I came and whither I go, but ye cannot tell whence I come and whither I go. Ye judge after the flesh. I judge no man. And yet if I judge, my judgment is true, for I am not alone, but I and the Father that sent me. I am one that bear witness of myself, and the Father that sent me beareth witness of me. Where is thy Father? Ye neither know me nor my Father. If ye had known me, ye should have known my Father also. I go my way, and ye shall seek me, and shall die in your sins.
That 3-hour Jesus movie is getting millions of views on YouTube, which raises the questions. Why did the church later spend millions more on a new Jesus movie? And why was it shot in Malta and not on its own set? Because no church official will comment, I can only guess maybe the new rebranding effort called for a spectacular, blockbuster, Hollywood-style movie rather than a stilted Jesus quoting scripture. It appears that the main architects of the church's rebranding campaign were Russell Ballard, who became president of the Quorum of 12 Apostles at the same time Nelson was named president, and Gordon Bowen, the New York advertising executive who had been working with Ballard for decades on previous rebranding projects. At least 3 of the new campaign's elements were that announcement of the correct name, the movie, and a new symbol. A big hint about what the new symbol would look like popped up the next year in Rome. In 2019, as work on a new symbol and the Jesus movie progressed, all top leaders of the Mormon faith were in Rome to dedicate a temple there. The centerpiece of the visitor center is a full-size replica of the church's Christus statue. It's in front of a mural painted by Mormon artist Joseph Brickey. Brickey had also painted an image of Jesus for the cover of a church-endorsed bestseller by an author who also creates and sells replicas of Michelangelo's famed sculpture of Mary cradling the body of a crucified Jesus. During the temple dedication trip, the 2 LDS leaders believed to be behind the Jesus movie, Russell Nelson and Russell Ballard, met with Pope Francis, and true to form presented him a Christus statue. Meanwhile, 400 miles south of Rome on the island of Malta, production plans for the Mormon Church's Jesus movie were well underway. At one time, perhaps then or later, Ballard visited the set. A year went by. During conference April 2020, Church President Nelson announced a new symbol for the church, featuring an image of the Christus as the central element. It was placed above the church's name. The new symbol replaced previous logos. New York ad man Gordon Bowen was involved with all versions of the logo and with the movie that was right then being secretly shot in Malta. The plan was to premiere clips the next year during the April 2021 conference. Flashback to 1985. Gordon Bowen went from working for the LDS Church on its highly acclaimed Homefront public service campaign to instant stardom on New York City's Madison Avenue. Advertising Age magazine published a cover story titled Gordon Bowen, a Mormon pilgrim in the Mecca of advertising. Bowen parlayed his New York advertising success to an appointment to the Mormon Church's Communications Futures Committee, where he became close to Apostles Boyd Packer, Russell Ballard, and Gordon Hinckley. This letter Bowen wrote to Packer reflects one of the committee's goals to distance the church from the nickname Mormon. Yes, attempts to ditch the Mormon nickname had been going on for years, with Bowen assisting the attempts. He wrote, "Lastly, the more quickly we move away from the term Mormon and proactively become the Church of Jesus Christ, the easier it will be to articulate and defend these positions." This photo shows Bowen next to Hinckley at Bowen's wedding reception. It was hours after Hinckley announced the Mormon Church's Proclamation to the World, a treatise that formalized the church's opposition to gay marriage. This photo was taken at the same event. Bowen had advised Mitt Romney on previous and upcoming political campaigns. Later, Romney, when he headed the Salt Lake Olympic Organizing Committee, engaged Bowen to help market the Games. Bowen created the Olympic Winter Games slogan, "Light the Fire Within." He designed the Olympic torch, and he produced the Games opening ceremonies. Mitt Romney later wrote, "Gordon's talent left us speechless and appreciative." Even though the church wanted to eradicate the wide use of Mormon as a moniker, Bowen helped with last-ditch attempts to give the word new meaning. The 2007 Truth Restored campaign poured millions of dollars into paid ads, rather than asking radio and television stations to run free public service announcements. Then in 2009, Bowen's former ad agency conducted research for the I'm a Mormon campaign, which stressed the very word church leaders wanted to fade away. In June 2011, the church blitzed New York City with hundreds of ads as 2 Mormons vied for the Republican presidential nomination, and as a hit musical about Mormon missionaries played on Broadway. The 2 40-foot billboards in Times Square were within a stone's throw of the theater. With the Proposition 8 debacle more than 3 years in the rearview mirror, Russell Ballard continued working with Bowen, sending him, for example, a letter about a guidebook they were working on. Ballard asked Bowen, "What counsel have you given the Church Media Advisory Committee?" in reference to the Mormon Messages guidebook, and "Our work on identity moves ever slowly forward, but is still moving." I reported in a previous episode about accusations of sexual impropriety that have dogged Bowen since the 1980s when he worked for the church. He had been accused of sexually assaulting male co-workers, and as he traveled extensively, accused of engaging male escorts in his hotel rooms. I reported that the LDS Church engaged Bowen to work on its secret Jesus movie project despite his bizarre view of Jesus. In 1993, Bowen wrote what appears to be a draft of a movie screenplay about Jesus. It was titled The Holy Dream and includes a scene about a naked Jesus. Quoting from his script, "A juicy, naked, free of clinging cloth, engorged Jesus mounted a black horse, wrapping his bare thighs around the hairy mane. The horse says or thinks, 'I am ready for this eternal rider. Rub me. Mount me.' Bowen's story seems to infer that he is the horse that Jesus mounts." Near the beginning of the church's Jesus movie project, a member of the church who knew Bowen wrote Russell Ballard, detailing Bowen's unsavory reputation. The letter said, "What if it comes to the attention of the national press this man has so much influence with LDS leaders and he's a child molester? It would be terrible for the church," the member wrote. The person got a phone response from Ballard's secretary saying, "We're keeping an eye on him." Bowen and Ballard declined comment on that accusation. Since my previous report, new detail has emerged about the movie, including its working title or code name, Project Icon. It was shot in Malta beginning in December 2019 into 2020. The film was configured to be a feature film and a 1-season, 8-episode miniseries to air in 2022. The concept, Jesus is seen through the eyes of a boy. The official tagline, "A street kid is forever changed after he endures the trial, persecution, and death of Jesus of Nazareth." Once I learned where the film was shot, I was able to discover members of the cast, most of whom were Italian and Maltese. Here are some of them. The boy, Festus, Naomi, Simon Peter, Mother Mary, Judas, and John. But the actor who played Jesus remains a mystery. The LDS Church went to extraordinary lengths to keep the project secret. My guess is that everyone involved must have been required to not only sign non-disclosure agreements, but the agreements also had severe penalties if violated. A very few shots of filming in Malta leaked out, these likely taken by an actor who was not involved in the production but dropped by to visit friends on set. Roland Joffe had previously directed major motion pictures, among them The Killing Fields and The Mission. An online search revealed one newspaper article that appeared in the Times Malta. Photos with the article showed some cast members between takes. The article said it was a movie about Jesus from a different angle. Another shot shows 2 crew members and one an actor with a donkey. The reporter wrote, "People have been asked not to take photos, as the production cast and crew try to keep as many scenes as possible from early releases on social media." After the film was shot and edited, Bowen previewed it in his Salt Lake home for Mormon general authorities. One source said the movie was a disaster. The footage was said to have been turned over to the church's in-house division for film production, Bonneville Communications, to see if they could salvage it. Apparently not. No Mormon Jesus movie was ever publicly announced. The church will not say which of its leaders, if any, worked on the Jesus movie project. 3 apostles who may have been involved, besides Russell Ballard, are Garrick Gong, Todd Christofferson, and Neil Anderson. The church and its leaders have skirted transparency and accountability about its Jesus movie project. It will not confirm whether it lost $20 million or more, will not explain why the project was abandoned after the film was completed. Yet Russell Ballard, who helped manage the project, falsely claims that the church is open and transparent.
It's this idea that the church is hiding something, which we would have to say as 2 apostles who have covered the world and know the history of the church and know the integrity of the first presidency and the quorum of the 12 from the beginning of time. There has been no attempt on the part in any way of the church leaders trying to hide anything from anybody. So just trust us wherever you are in the world, and you share this message with anyone else who raises the question about the church not being transparent. We're as transparent as we know how to be in telling the truth. We have to do that. That's the Lord's way.
Even without the movie, the church's increasing emphasis on Jesus continued with a distinctive Catholic flair. For example, its new position on Holy Week. Before, the church played down Easter. The previous position was Latter-day Saints conduct Easter Sunday services but do not follow the religious observances of Ash Wednesday, Lent, or Holy Week. Latter-day Saint Easter services traditionally review New Testament and Book of Mormon accounts of Christ's crucifixion. Some Latter-day Saint families include Easter bunnies and eggs in their family festivities for the delight of children. Such traditions are not officially discouraged, though they have no religious significance to Latter-day Saints. The church's new Holy Week position was unveiled during its April 2023 General Conference. The theme, Grow Your Relationship with Jesus Christ During Holy Week. The new policy included a full Holy Week agenda. One news story said, Latter-day Saints should make Easter as rich in tradition as Christmas, Apostle says at conference. Next, detail about the other movie. As I said at the beginning of this episode, I'm exploring connections between Project Icon and the Sound of Freedom. First, an in-depth look at the Sound of Freedom's co-star and director. Eduardo Verastegui's career began as a member of a popular Mexican boy band. Modeling, soap opera stardom followed. Hollywood discovered Verastegui. Then he formed his own movie production company. The tabloids claimed he had an affair with singer Ricky Martin. True or not, Verastegui found Jesus and took a vow of celibacy. Verastegui politically is ultra-conservative. He publicly opposed Barack Obama. He served as an advisor for U.S. President Donald Trump, much like his Sound of Freedom business partner, Tim Ballard. And like the Mormon Church, he vigorously campaigned for Prop 8 against gay marriage in California. Verastegui founded a Mexico branch of America's Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, and hosted the first event after being introduced by Donald Trump via live video stream. Speakers at his event included Tim Ballard, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, and political strategist Steve Bannon. The man who found Jesus has a lot of Jesus connections. On Good Friday in 2012, Verastegui played Jesus in Peru's Passion Play. In 2014, Verastegui did not play Jesus, but was an executive producer for the movie Son of God, co-produced by Roma Downey. He did voice Jesus for the Spanish version. It was the first Christian movie to be released under 20th Century Fox. The film was a smash hit, grossing $70 million against a budget of $22 million, making it the seventh highest grossing Christian film of all time. In 2017, Verastegui made mention of his visit to the Holy Land, where he offered a prayer at the birthplace of Jesus in Bethlehem. In 2019, Verastegui made worldwide news when he announced plans to construct a Jesus statue in Mexico. His Christ of Peace statue was to be 252 feet tall, breaking the current record held by Christ the King in Poland and well eclipsing the most famous statue in Brazil. He did not disclose how much the project would cost or how it would be funded. So far, the project remains on the drawing board. In 2019, Verastegui, who, as noted, is devout Catholic, received a blessing from Pope Francis at the Vatican, and he thanked the Pope for the work he does to eradicate human trafficking. Tim Ballard, the hero in Verastegui's movie about the rescue of child sex slaves, has his own beliefs about angels and Jesus. Ballard says he is on God's errand. In a YouTube video, Ballard asks, "Why does God permit children to be raped?" And he was puzzled at seeing more light the closer he gets to child rape victims.
So I get asked a lot about my faith. They say, "Tim, you believe in a loving God. You believe in Jesus Christ, the same Christ in the Bible who loves the children and would do anything for the children." When you see what people are doing to kids, you wouldn't, in your wildest imagination, be able to conjure up the things that are reality in terms of the abuse, the sexual abuse, the things people have done and do. There's a light when I'm there. I love it. How do I love this? And I started thinking there's something wrong with me. I've learned that angels aren't some myth. I've learned that they're real. These are real personages. And years ago, the answer hit me. I was actually reading the Bible and reading about angels and reading the very scriptures about God's love for children when I realized what was happening. Yes, we go into the darkest places, and yes, it hurts to get there, but the closer you get to those children who are in dark places, the closer you get to light. And the only thing I can conclude, and I believe with all my heart, is that light of God and angels surround those children. And even in the darkest places, more angels show up, more light shows up. All of these children, in the end, will be healed completely. Because it can be daunting when you think, we're not even going to get to all of them. We're not going to get to all of them. And those we get to, and you see the damage, you don't know if they're ever going to be healed or you're going to witness it. You don't know. Unless you believe in Jesus.
3 Utahns were among the most prominent characters who participated in the raids in Colombia depicted in Verastegui's movie The Sound of Freedom: Sean Reyes, Paul Hutchinson, and Tim Ballard. Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes made headlines when he played the part of Hutchinson's bodyguard. Reyes reportedly wanted a really big star to play him in the movie, namely Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But Reyes' part in the rescue apparently got cut out of the script, and The Rock is not in the film. Ballard, of course, is played by actor Jim Caviezel, whose most prominent Hollywood role was playing Jesus in The Passion of Christ. Verastegui plays Paul Hutchinson. During the actual OUR sting operation in Colombia, Hutchinson played like he was a wealthy American pedophile seeking sex with minors. Hutchinson also invested in the Sound of Freedom movie. He's known for hosting parties for the rich and famous. He also ran his own child sex slave rescue nonprofit that's similar to Operation Underground Railroad, but without lots of publicity. Hutchinson and Tim Ballard had a falling out after Ballard conducted an infamous so-called whiteboard meeting at Hutchinson's home. During the meeting, Ballard, on a whiteboard, diagrammed how money could flow through a variety of entities into his venture, TimBallard.com. This PowerPoint slide version of the whiteboard indicates Ballard expected Hutchinson's nonprofit to funnel funds to Ballard's company. Hutchinson very recently disclosed he's getting out of the child sex worker raid and rescue business. He told me, "I'm done playing the game of child rescue work. I led countless rescue missions, and now after 10 years, I looked at the numbers. There are more children being sold today than there were 10 years ago. If my goal was to eradicate child trafficking, then this whole Rambo bullshit is not working. Nothing is being done to solve the demand problem. When 20 children are rescued, it creates a vacuum, and 20 more children get sucked into the recesses of hell." And now a closer look at what Tim Ballard's whiteboard chart revealed. The main for-profit venture was the Tim Ballard entity named Slave Stealers, LLC. LDS Apostle Russell Ballard was one of Slave Stealers' 3 partners. Russell Ballard himself, along with at least 2 other Mormon general authorities, invested in a Tim Ballard-related filmmaking venture, perhaps $200,000 each. The money appears to have gone through an entity named Liberty and Light Foundation, previously named Equity Trust Foundation. From there, the money was supposed to go to the filmmaking deal, possibly the Sound of Freedom movie. Slave Stealers, that for-profit entity at the top of Tim Ballard's whiteboard chart, had a Farmington, Utah address. It's the business address for Brad Brower, Russell Ballard's son-in-law. They declined comment. The possible motion picture investors I referred to, Russell Ballard, Robert Gay, and Dale Rendlin, would not comment. Another apostle, Ronald Rasband, also appears to have had some ongoing connection to Tim Ballard, but he also declined comment. Russell Ballard and John Huntsman, founder of Huntsman Chemical, were in-laws. Ballard's daughter married one of Huntsman's sons. Ballard and Huntsman were also investment partners. Ronald Rasband was president of Huntsman Chemical before becoming an LDS apostle. During the time of Rasband's Huntsman Chemical presidency, the company put 2 corporate jets at the disposal of Mormon Church leaders. The same year, 2015, that Rasband was elevated to apostle status by then-church president Thomas Monson, Monson had flown in the Huntsman corporate jet. It may have been no coincidence that the same year, Rasband assumed the chairmanship of the Public Affairs Committee, the post previously held by Russell Ballard, which positioned Rasband to participate in the church's rebranding after Russell Nelson replaced Thomas Monson. Whether or not Rasband invested in the Sound of Freedom venture, the film was completed and then announced for theatrical distribution again and again. The first false alarm was in 2018, soon in theaters. Other announcements followed. Original release date, 2019. Digital release date, 2020. It is expected to be released in 2021. It may come out January 2022. Then in May 2022, the announcement, now finally, we have got the release date of the movie. The Sound of Freedom is set to release on August 1st, 2022. That date came and went. No movie. In 2021, Eduardo Vrastegui was one of the featured speakers for CPAC, the annual Conservative Political Action Conference in the United States. He plugged his still not yet released movie, Sound of Freedom, saying, "Coming out in January 2022. Tell everyone you know to see this film when it comes out," was yet another of the false alarms. This year, yet another announced release date, but this one might be for real. The latest theatrical release date is by the end of this year. Variety broke the story at the end of March. It reported, Angel Studios has acquired worldwide distribution rights for Sound of Freedom and will release the film theatrically in 2023. Why this time? Angel Studios has had astounding success funding releases, especially with the online series and theatrical showing of the blockbuster hit, The Chosen. The Chosen is the story of Jesus through the eyes of those who followed him. Season 1 and 2 were shot in Texas and Utah, and Season 3 mostly in Texas. The news media gushed over The Chosen's success. The Chosen Season 3 success smashes box office expectations. The Chosen shocks Hollywood again. The Chosen triggers Hollywood upset. The actor who plays Jesus in The Chosen is Catholic, even though The Chosen's Jesus is mostly evangelical. He asked Pope Francis to bless the movie. It took a miracle, however, to save The Chosen before its stupendous success. Not a Catholic miracle, but a Mormon miracle. After Season 1, the prospects for Season 2 were in serious doubt. The Chosen's creator, Dallas Jenkins, and Angel Studios, the Harmon brothers, could not find a location, a set to film Season 2. Their search included Malta, where at that very time the Mormon Jesus movie was being filmed. The Mormon Church had rebuffed multiple requests to use its biblical set in Goshen. So Dallas Jenkins went to a farm in Illinois to pray and commune with God, which he posted on YouTube.
I want to share with you now where I'm at, because I'm in a difficult place, to be honest with you. I'm in a place where I don't know the future. I don't even know the immediate future. As of right now, I can't tell you where we're going to film our show next. I can't tell you even if we're going to film in 2020. And the reason that I'm here on this farm is because this is where I go. It's owned by a very dear friend of mine, and it's where I go about once or twice a year when I really want to hear from God. And I don't hear an audible voice, of course, but I do feel like this is where, whenever I've gone here, God has always proven himself faithful.
Little did Jenkins know that at that very moment he was praying in Illinois, 1,400 miles away, at LDS Church headquarters in Salt Lake City, in the office of Apostle Russell Ballard, phone calls were being made, hearts were being softened, and prayers were being answered. LDS-friendly Meridian Magazine published a story by writer Andrew Rice, who worked as an extra for The Chosen, and also interviewed Dallas Jenkins, and asked how a non-Mormon producer got permission to use the church's Goshen set. Dallas told me that President M. Russell Ballard, a prominent leader in our faith, had binge-watched Season 1, which is a funny thing to imagine, and then told the other senior leaders about it. Dallas eventually met with Elder Holland and Elder Bednar. Elder Holland was funnier than he expected, and these leaders only asked the filmmaker a couple of questions about his intent. Dallas said something to the effect of wanting to share Jesus with the world. That seemed to be enough for Elders Holland and Bednar, because not long after, Dallas received approval.
And that day, a senior member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles inside of the church, his secretary comes in and she says, I just watched the most amazing series over the weekend called The Chosen. You really need to watch it. And then he gets a phone call from somebody who had watched the video of Dallas asking everybody to pray, and he had an impression to call this member of the Quorum of the 12. I mean, this is like the top of the church. And he says, calls and says, I just calling because I feel like I should call you about The Chosen, this TV series. And they're like, oh, we're talking about that right now. And he binges the whole entire show that day that Dallas asked everybody to pray. And then this guy who calls says, I just feel like I should call you and tell you that they need a set for Season 2. And the entire bureaucracy is reversed within a very short period of time. And this miracle to get this set happens.
Ostensibly, for the first time, a non-Mormon film was shot on the church's Jerusalem set in Goshen. The Deseret News wrote that Dallas Jenkins was like a kid in a candy store from the moment he was introduced to the set in central Utah's desert with topography resembling the Holy Land. He said, "There's just no way that we can recreate this set anywhere else." Angel Studios deployed two concepts to finance the initial production and distribution of The Chosen: crowdfunding, where many, even thousands of small amounts of money are raised from a large number of people, typically by the internet, and Pay It Forward, where supporters pay for theater tickets for those who could not otherwise afford them. And that's how Sound of Freedom distribution is being financed. Small public investors are now going to an Angel Studio website where they can express interest in investing. Angel Studios has about a year to raise up to $5 million and expressed willingness to invest. But after just 3 weeks, they're more than halfway there. Interested crowdfunders have quickly expressed nearly $3 million in interest. Angel Studios, by the way, denied my request for an interview. Angel Studios is also soliciting Pay It Forward donations. The website says, when you pay it forward to Sound of Freedom, you're covering the cost of actual movie tickets for someone who would not otherwise be able to see the film. If there are any funds remaining after the theatrical run, they will be used for streaming Sound of Freedom in the Angel Studios app. Remaining funds from Pay It Forward may also be used to help the filmmaker create additional content. As I near the end of this report, here are some additional facts about The Chosen and Angel Studios. The Chosen, Inc. is the entity that holds most of the rights connected with the Jesus series' financial success. Angel Studios derived its income via licensing agreements to distribute The Chosen videos via streaming and in theaters, and pay The Chosen, Inc. royalties. At one point, the two companies talked about merging into a single multi-billion-dollar entity, but those talks fell apart. The Chosen, Inc.'s two most powerful executives, seen here standing between the actor who plays Jesus, are not evangelicals, but Mormons, both former LDS bishops. Darrell Eves was co-founder, is chief strategy officer, and the majority shareholder. Brad Pello is president and runs the company. Chosen, Inc.'s president previously worked for Angel Studios, but as The Chosen began achieving astronomical success, he resigned from Angel Studios and became The Chosen, Inc.'s president, which triggered this lawsuit that Angel Studios brought against Brad Pello, accusing him of betrayal, breach of fiduciary duty, and fraudulent conduct. The lawsuit alleged potential damages of $2.6 billion. The case settled before Pello filed an answer, so the court record does not indicate whether money was involved in resolving the dispute. It is known that Angel Studios remains one of The Chosen's distributors. It means that The Chosen, Inc., a potentially multi-billion-dollar company, is not behind the distribution of The Sound of Freedom to theaters, but the multi-million-dollar company, Angel Studios, has the rights to distribute, a company that has relatively much less clout in the movie industry. That's the end. Thanks for watching. For questions, comments, or corrections, here's my email address.